Are you a salesperson, business owner, or freelancer that has an inner scaredy cat when it comes to prospecting for new business? Just about every person responsible for driving revenue feels anxious sometimes. After all, there's a lot on the line, namely your payday. You now have a ringside seat on how the best salespeople overcome those anxious moments, crushing it in sales. I'm your host, Joyce, a seasoned businesswoman who has built companies as large as $125 million and sold into national retailers like Walmart. Prepare to have your mindset rebooted and inspired here on the Anxiety-Free Selling Show. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Anxiety-Free Selling. Today, I'm pleased to have Gary Wilson on our call and our podcast, and we're going to be talking with him. His company is My Investment Services. Gary has completed over 100 transactions per year, consistently every year, without a sales team or an assistant, with virtually no marketing cost. He has traded over 3,000 investment properties in less than 5 years, developed 5 real estate holding companies that own more than 250 rental units, and is a self-made multi-millionaire by building a real estate enterprise including brokerage, rental management, investment services, settlement services, and appraisal services.
Well, first off, I want to tell everybody, give yourselves a pat on the back if you're in sales. I know what it's like out there because, I'm directly or indirectly, I am and have been in sales in the past. And, there's an old saying, I know you've heard it, but nothing happens till somebody sells something. So you're the beginning. When you sell something, it's not the end of the deal. It's the beginning of some other exercise that's going to go on between your company, whatever you're selling, product or service, and the consumer. So you start a whole chain reaction of things occurring in the economy that everybody wins. So back to my story, I didn't start off in sales. I had nothing at all to do with selling anything. I had an IT degree, but we called it MIS back then, back in the 1985. This is back then. Code using a block of granite, a chisel, and a hammer. That's how we wrote code. But I worked first for NASA. I was on the space shuttle program, and I worked for the Navy doing some DoD stuff. Basically tracking subs is what I did there. It was top secret. I got tired of that because I wanted to actually be with people, so I got into banking, and that's what led me into mergers and acquisitions. I was analyzing systems, comparing systems in the merger, what one will survive and so forth. So I liked the money aspect of banking. I just liked the people aspect and the money aspect. Mm-hmm. And over time, I was getting promoted. I got promoted. And quite frankly, the more I got promoted, the less I liked it. I didn't like being in management. I didn't even like the corporate world, quite frankly. So I started investing. And my very first investment was going back to college. My college freshman year roommate, his name's Socrates.
I like
his father was a Greek immigrant. Yep.
Plato.
And we graduated. He said, "You boys are not going to rent, you're going to buy." And he taught us how to buy a house, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom rancher. We assumed the owner's VA mortgage, and you can still do that today, by the way.
Right.
And we refinanced his second and gave him another third mortgage for the remainder of his equity. And that's how we bought it. This was January 1986. And that set me on the path of investing. And Socrates' dad at the closing table, Joyce, was pounding his chest, saying, "If you boys do what I tell you to do, you won't have to work for anybody else when you're 35 years old." Well, we didn't do that. We're young kids. We got a job. We got a house. We're living at the beach, Virginia Beach, Virginia. And we're going to be like the king of the neighborhood. Party, girls, typical young guys. We ended up getting married. And I wake up, I'm 35 years old, thinking, I wish I'd have listened to him because I did not like the corporate world. So I started investing, did the old Carlton Sheet stuff, no money down, buying on terms, all that.
I saw it at the time.
Yeah, it's a hard way to buy real estate, guys. Just know this. I'm not knocking it because sometimes that's what you got to do. It's extremely difficult. It's way better to come in with cash. So what I like to help people do is show them how to get on a cash basis so they can get better deals. But long story short, in 5 years after I started investing, I was able to retire from the corporate world. And after I retired, I needed something more to do. So I started building businesses. I built the brokerage company, and all I did was serve investors. That's all we did. We worked with investors. And then the property management was the next natural thing to launch. We did that, title business, appraisal business. So we had an entire suite of services to offer investors. Well, through a series of life events, like going through divorce, for example, a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I broke my back in two places in the middle of the divorce. So that put me out of commission for quite a while. Had to relearn how to walk and then therapy, all this kind of stuff. And it was a major life-changing event. And I'm telling you, looking back on it now, as painful as that was, emotionally and physically, every other way, probably the best experience I ever had, because it created a new blank canvas for me. I had this, now the other half of my life, and what I'm going to do, I created a training company called My Invested Services. Okay, I don't actually own it now, but I still get paid, obviously, and I share in royalties and profits and all that. But the point is, and by the way, that goes back to me I like to build things. I like to build businesses. I just don't like to manage, okay? And it's typical of entrepreneurs. But the purpose was to teach people how to invest correctly in real estate, because it's not all about the no money down techniques. No money down has its place. It's just not every place. And then we realized, well, we got to teach the agents how to work with these investors, because the agents didn't know how to, in the residential world, the agents didn't know how to do this. So we created a whole new program for them. And then we built this community of agents and investors. And most of the investors are typically business owners. A lot of them are in sales. They're entrepreneurial. When you have the entrepreneurial gene, it allows you to be a better investor. Okay, so everybody just take heart. The skills you're developing in sales are going to serve you well when it comes to investing. So in any case, that's sort of the quick version of how I got from where I was to where I am now. And right now, I'm in beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida for 8 days in a oceanfront, I don't know what you call it. They call it the presidential suite or something, but I'm a happy camper. So I get to literally work from the beach, and I don't really call it work. To me, it's fun, you know? So it's an amazing journey. And it all started with scarcity, necessity, having to do something. And out of that was born the opportunity and the abundance that comes with it. So, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Good for you. I'm glad to hear that. And you're right about that entrepreneur spirit. And I find that entrepreneurs typically love what they do, and they work all the time, but they don't feel like they work all the time because they love what they do. So I've been accused of that a time or two. So let's talk about that. Most real estate, when you hear about it as an investor, it's about putting down as little as possible.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that when you say use cash, that you're creating those connections, right? You're meeting with investors. So are you doing syndication deals, or how are you doing all cash?
Well, in the old days, what I did is I did no money down investing. I would borrow money from everybody I could borrow money from to buy properties. What I realized is I'm doing what the gurus were telling me. The challenge was they don't tell you this. Yes, you don't put yourself at risk when you borrow other people's money, but you put the other people at risk, okay? And in a recession, when most people were throwing the towel in and saying, I give up, take the property, and they walk away, well, the people they borrowed from are the ones that get hurt. Well, often it's family members and friends. I never had to do that, but I witnessed it firsthand. I'm thinking, well, that's ludicrous, okay? What I figured out was what the really good investors are doing, guys, they were, it's not that they don't borrow money. I still borrow money today, but I borrow strategically against assets I already own to acquire other assets. So here's the difference. In the beginning, you're using other people's money, no money down, because you don't have any, and you have to do that to buy a property, okay? I get that. What I want you to do is don't rely on that exclusively and don't do it forever. It's just a way to get started, okay? When you're able to get on a cash basis, don't be afraid to borrow against your existing assets. Like it's like a home equity line of credit, but it's against your investment properties that allow you to go out and buy the next bigger property. Okay, and remember that doesn't have a lien on it at this point. Later on, as you improve it and raise the rents, you increase the value using a process called income approach to valuation. Then you get a brand new first mortgage on that property, pay back the line of credit. When you pay back the line of credit and you add an income producing asset to your portfolio, guess what that lender does for you on that line of credit?
What?
Well, they increase it. They increase the line of credit. Now you turn a corner. You've gone from borrowing out of need to borrowing strategically against assets you've already purchased, which puts you in control. And I can tell you, we're going to have a recession. I don't know when, but people always say, hey, Gary, you think we're going to have another recession? I'm like, hell yes. I just don't know when. It's going to happen. You might as well get used to it and expect it. But it doesn't mean you have to be afraid of it. Don't let fear stop you from investing. Investors, we always invest. It doesn't care. We don't care what the economy is doing. I shouldn't say that. We care what the economy is doing. It just doesn't matter if it's up or down. We just want to know if it's up or down, because then we know what strategies to use, okay? But the point is when a recession hits and you've got your own skin in the game, I guarantee you won't give up. You'll keep that ship afloat. You'll get it to shore. And by the way, when lenders lend money, there's 4 C's in lending: cash, collateral, credit, and character. Over time, character becomes the most important factor for lenders. They don't really care if you made money in an upmarket. Anybody can make money in an upmarket. They want to know what happened when the market was down. Did you stick with it, or did you let the ship crash into the shoals? If you stuck with it, you'll have no problem ever borrowing money. I can promise you won't have to call banks. The banks will call you, right? So again, I'm not opposed to no money down financing or creative purchasing techniques. I've written a book that has all that stuff in there. The point is be strategic and apply the techniques when it's appropriate. Okay, there's different techniques for different scenarios. So just be informed about these processes and be educated and be responsible too.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. I mean, you should. Other people's money should be like first. That's a trust that you really need to make sure you don't break. If you take other people, to me, it's always been, if I lose my money, that's my money. But if I lose somebody else's money, that's like a dagger in the heart.
Yep.
They won't ever forget.
You better believe it.
You'll
it could
be a hero or a zero, depending on the outcome. So I'm interested in a market like we have now, where the prices are inflated. Like I've been looking to buy, and I look at things that I owned and then sold, and I see the pricing, and yes, the rents have gone up, but not justifying double the acquisition cost. So I'm just like sitting here scratching my head going, I guess I'm gonna have to get into the dirt and really dig around, root for somebody in trouble, in foreclosure, whatever, that type of investing to find a deal. How do you handle up? You said there's different strategies. Do you have any suggestions for an up market? I do agree with you that eventually it's gonna crash and be another 2008, where instead of being afraid, that's the time to make out like a bandit. You should be scooping up stuff when that happens. So do you think it's better to kind of hold back your reserves and just spend your time educating yourself if this is new to you, and then wait for the market correction to come, or just keep blowing and going? And how do you buy something that's overvalued and make money at it?
Well, it could be. So everything is relative, number one. So yes, as values go up, typically rents are going up too, maybe not at the same pace, but everything's relative. So I some things are clearly overvalued, but in most cases, it's just reflective of the way the market's been and the way the ease of money. Like money's been very inexpensive lately. We were just talking about this today, investing in Germany. In Germany, Peck, you can get a 1% mortgage right now, Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at investing in Germany. But in any case, what happens when your interest rates are lower, the cost of borrowing money is lower, it's usually relative, inversely relative to increases in value. So everything's relative. Now, strategically speaking, there's some different things to consider. Number one is everybody has different motives. I'm at my age, I don't really want to be in debt anymore. In fact, right now, personally, I have no personal debt and no business debt. Okay. And then that's not because I'm expecting a recession tomorrow. I do expect a recession, but right now, and everybody, turn off the television and look at the facts. We are absolutely in the best economy in almost all aspects that we've ever had. Barron's, Forbes are all saying they've never seen it like this before. It's that good. I mean, my gosh, almost every sector of the population is benefiting, unless you're in a coma or something. So what I tell people is, look at whatever the market's doing, study what it's doing, and then you'll know what strategies to apply. So right now, here's some strategies. Right, if prices are high relative to historical prices, I get it, but it doesn't mean you don't have to buy. What you can do is you can stretch out the term, make a longer term so you have longer to pay it, which means your payments are lower. You can lower the interest rates on your mortgage and do something else relative to that, like do what's called a rent participation mortgage, where you say, okay, Mr. Seller, I want the property. It's pretty high price relative to history. I get it. It's just what it is today. But in order to me to make a cash flow, I've got to do something with my debt so that I can cash flow. A rent participation mortgage says that you'll lower the interest rate today on the loan, but the owner that you buy it from, a percentage of your increases in rent going forward for a period of time will go back to that owner as compensation for the lower interest rate. And what it does is it allows them to participate and sell the property, but allows you to get the property. And if the property is a good property over time, you raise the rents, right? You win and they win. So that's just one example. Some other examples of this, you can just simply put more money down. In fact, a lot of investors I know, most of us operate from cash now. We do borrow later on, but I never borrow more than 50% loan to value. I'll use cash, get the property, grab the asset, fix it up, raise the rents, make it more valuable, then borrow 50% loan to value, which is usually enough to pay me back my cash. But so that's another strategy, put more money down, sometimes use all cash. Some other things you can do are on the service end. So in other words, instead of buying a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch to rent out for $2,000 a month, I'll turn it into a non-medical assisted living unit, okay? In a residential neighborhood, non-medical assisted living, and I'll rent out the individual bedrooms for $2,000 a piece per month. So instead of making $2,000 in rent, I'll make $8,000 in rent, okay? Not very regulated, not regulated hardly at all, by the way. It's a new industry. It's popping up in, like here in Florida, popping up in Arizona. And it's for people who are emerging retirees, but they don't want to be in a retirement village. They don't want to take that next step. They want to be in a neighborhood like the one they came from. They just don't want to cut the grass and shovel the snow and fix the things. And they do want a nice place. So we have granite countertops, columns, every bedroom has its own bathroom. And sometimes we can offer concierge services, like we'll have a professional chef come in on 1 or 2 nights a week and cook professional meals, and even have laundry services, dog walking services. If they go on vacation, we'll take their dog, all kinds of things like that. Mm-hmm. So in a market like today, there's other strategies you can use to rent a place out. Airbnb is an obvious one. It's about a 10-year-old industry now. And it, has its pros and cons. I like it. I know people that Airbnb in neighborhoods that actually have restrictions, zoning and occupancy restrictions, but they still do the service because the gross profit is way more than they need to compensate for the fines and penalties they pay.
That's funny. Yeah.
So there's some examples there on purchasing strategies and also service, or what we call exit strategies.
Great. Thank you for that. That's interesting. So money, let's talk about if you have your own business, what can you do with your business asset?
Great subjects.
Yeah.
So a lot of my clients over the years have usually been professionals in their fields, obviously, professional firemen, professional teachers, professional chiropractors, dentists, engineers that own their own HVAC business, things like that. And a lot of times they do own a business, or in the case of a medical person like a dentist, they'll own their own practice. In a lot of states, let's just take dentists, for example. When someone graduates, let's take it California. When a dentist gets out of dental school in California, they're licensed, they pass the exam, they qualify automatically, minimum automatically, $1 million business line of credit. That's a lot of money, even in California. Yep. So what you do is most dentists want to build their own practice. They don't want to work for somebody else. They want their own practice. Mm-hmm. So they'll take this to build the practice. Now the practice should be set up as a business entity. I'm not an attorney or an accountant. My observation has been it's usually an S corp. Okay, I use S corps myself. Mm-hmm. Well, that S corp is a business entity. As long as it's producing revenue, profiting, it's a profitable business. It has value that you can borrow against. You can leverage that value to get a business line of credit. And here's what I'm getting at. Back to real estate investing, you can use that, leveraging your business, your practice, getting a business line of credit to buy real estate for an investment purpose. Now, you don't buy it outright. What you do is you set up another entity called an LLC. So the practice is funding the LLC, and then the LLC goes and buys the rental property, okay? Now, it's usually done as a loan, and the LLC has to pay back the loan to the practice, okay? Now, going forward, the properties inside the LLC will also grow in value. They'll grow in equity, they'll appreciate, they have cash flow coming in. Well, you can borrow against that too, and if you want to do that, and you can then pay back the practice or simply buy another practice. So this is one strategy dentists can use to expand their practice. They can buy multiple practices. And the really good ones actually will buy the building that the practice is practicing out of. The building will be purchased in a separate LLC, separate entity, okay? It separates liability and risk and all that. But every time you have another business, you have another business entity, another asset that you can borrow against, okay? So again, you're borrowing against yourself. Essentially, it puts you in control. You can borrow up to 80%, whatever you want. I don't know what the lenders will tell you, but in my case, I never borrow more than 50%. And so that's one good way. Anybody here is listening in sales and you have your own business, if you're in sales, probably you're an entrepreneur anyways. Just keep that in mind. Make sure you set up the proper business structure so that you have a business that you can borrow against and not have to just borrow against property. You can borrow against the business also. And it goes back and forth. Remember this, the real estate investing, it turns out, is not the end game. It's the foundation upon which you can launch other businesses. And the really powerful investors are making more money with their businesses by selling, by merging their businesses, and they keep buying bigger and bigger properties, commercial properties, strip malls, apartment buildings, things like that,
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's always, for me, it's always about investing for cash flow. That's what I'm always striving to. Although, back in the day, I used to do some flips here and there for little projects. And a lot of people don't know that they can have their own self-directed IRA where they can use that money to invest in real estate. And so you might want to check out that. I know there's a lot of terminology, a lot of moving parts, but if you start talking to people, you'll be surprised at how many ways there are to use entities, like you said, to benefit yourself. So I would encourage listeners to maybe have a conversation with a business lawyer as well as a good, very knowledgeable CPA. And they're not all created equally, that's for sure. Yeah. You have to find one who's understands the tax code and is creative. So that's all really good stuff. Now, this is the Anxiety-Free Selling podcast. So let's talk about a time where you felt some anxiety around what you were doing. So, and how did you overcome that?
Oh my gosh. I've been investing for 34 years and I've been a real estate broker for 18 of those years. I didn't get my license to serve other people. I literally got it for myself. Okay. And so in the beginning, I didn't want anybody to know I had a license. I didn't want to do the open house. I had no interest in that at all. But what happened is a local real estate teacher had heard me on the radio program. I got invited to be on the local radio show about my investing. He heard it and he called me up and he said, would you come in and just do a little cameo for my students and show them you're a real life person, you invest, and hopefully they can do it too. And I did. And then he kept inviting me back like once a month. And it turns out people found out I had my license and they would ask me, hey, can you help me do that? At first I said, no, I don't do this for other people. Well, I finally got to the point I think, well, maybe God's trying to tell me something and I maybe should say yes. So I said yes. I learned a valuable marketing lesson. I walked into the next class, 25 people, and I said, yes, I can help you, but I can only help 2 of you. I can only take 2 on right now at a time. Well, guess what happens when you tell a room of 25 people that only 2 of them can do something that they all want to do?
A fist fight breaks out.
Oh my gosh, I could have, yeah. So ended up, long story short is I did decide to really go full blown in the brokerage, and it built another line of business for me. Remember, so I had all these properties. Now I had a business bringing in cash flow from commissions, okay, from serving others. Right. Now, what's interesting is I started learning about marketing. And I'm just going to put this out there. Please forgive me if I'm offending anybody, but most real estate brokerages teach their agents only like door knocking, cold calling, all this, postcards. Don't do it. You're going to waste your money. I'm just telling you. So very few people make them work. The average return call rate is 0.5%. Okay. Cold calling, you're getting a list of people that, it's called cold for a reason. They've already tried to sell their house. They're expires, they're FSBO. Well, FSBOs are telling you for sale by owner, they don't want to use agents. They want to do it themselves. And I've had success with that, but I'm telling you, what I figured out was this. If I simply did the research to find the owners of the properties that the people I was serving wanted to buy, and I approached them directly using direct response marketing that was targeted. So if anybody listening, you want to write this down. Targeted direct response marketing. That's the difference maker. It's going to look like a lot of work up front, and it's going to be more work, but it's going to be a more profitable work for you. You can spend your money on postcards because it looks easy. You get this beautiful postcard, goes out to 7,000 people. I knew people did postcard campaigns and never even got a single phone call, But when I send somebody basically a letter, you can even handwrite it. One paragraph that just says, the no salesy stuff. You don't talk about yourself. Everybody listening, if you're in sales, I know it's tempting. Give them your credentials, build yourself up. Don't do that. Don't even put a letterhead on the letter. Just person to person, you're writing to one person and tell them you have people interested, name them. Say, I'm like Mr. Matajasic, who wants to buy a property just like yours in your area. Stuff like that will get a much higher response rate. Now, we do use language patterns and NLP and stuff like that, but the basic theory is this. Direct response marketing, personal, one-to-one, handwritten name and address on the envelope, and always give them an offer. Make an offer, free home evaluation, no obligation, whatever it is you want to do. Just don't ask for the business in the letter. You haven't earned that right yet. Those are the areas most agents make mistakes, or most people in sales make mistakes, is you ask for the sale too soon. You do have to ask for the sale, but in the beginning, you got to build rapport. And the only way to build rapport is to establish contact with them in a way using information that's going to be important to them. The only way you can determine that is to do your research. Mm-hmm. So we literally use housing records. We go into the county's property records, and we gather the ownership information. We get the history of the property. Then we go look at public records, see if anybody's filing for divorce or probate or landlord-tenant cases like evictions, even the old-fashioned, of course, bankruptcy, foreclosure, the typical stuff. So we know we're only approaching people that have a higher probability of needing to or wanting to sell. Mm-hmm. Now, that might not apply to every single person listening, but it probably will apply to most of you, okay? And I would take that to heart, guys. I'm living proof that will work far better than doing the broadcast type marketing. Casting a wide net. Have you ever seen anybody net fish? They pull up the net, they get a shoe, a tin can, a toilet lid, a tire, and a crab, and maybe one fish. But if you have the right rod and the right reel and the right line and the right bait, you can specifically target who you're going to fish for and only pull up what you want to pull up. Just remember this, the people you're working with is a direct result of your marketing. So if you're not happy with the people you're working with, you got to change your marketing, okay? So I hope I didn't get too far down that rabbit hole, Joyce, but that's a very sensitive subject for me because it's where I see most people in sales struggle, and it's easy to rectify by becoming a master of the business and learning how to do direct response marketing that's highly targeted. I got plenty of examples of it. That's what I teach when I teach agents, quite frankly. So.
Okay, great. Excellent. So I usually ask for 3 tips for salespeople. Maybe make one of them another rapport builder. And if you could just kind of share from it real estate, mergers, acquisitions, whatever, just life experience, 3 tips that you could share with our salespeople listening.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned rapport because in spite of everything I can teach you guys, the main thing, the very first step with any sales relationship, remember the value is the relationship. You want to build a relationship based on value. You've got to provide good value, and that relationship will pay you over and over again. Well, in order to do that, you've got to build rapport. So at the inception of any contact with anybody, and be sincere about it too, but build rapport, even on a repeat basis. Somebody you've worked with on 100 transactions, first on the phone call, unless it's like a dire emergency, always take a moment to rebuild rapport. Hey, how is your son doing in soccer? Did you ever get that new puppy? Whatever. Did your mom come to visit? Build rapport means you got to actually be sincere about this. I promise you, when you build rapport, tip number one is you're going to have a way, way easier time selling, okay? Mm-hmm. Tip number two is you should definitely get involved with real estate investing because it's passive income. It has tax benefits. It's over time, you pay it down, it goes up in value. You get cash flow. It has, you can, of course, appreciation, depreciation, the write-off to own the property. At the end of the day, you can sell it if you want 2 years later, or refinance it, or repurpose it, maybe make it part of a REIT. But that's number two, real estate. And number three is constantly self-educate. I didn't get where I am by myself, guys. I had a lot of help. I constantly paid for mentors, always ask for help no matter who I meet. Ask for one tip, just like you did, ask for three, ask for at least one. But be a learning person, be a master of learning, and I promise you, you'll be successful. So I appreciate the question, because that's I can think of a lot more things, but those three things right there, for me personally, that they made a huge difference.
Amen, Gary.
Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir on those. I really like that. So
yeah.
That's really what it boils down. And that's just basic sales 101, really. I mean,
yeah.
You got to be someone who truly is invested and interested in the other person.
Yeah.
That's.
So it means you got to sell something you like to sell.
Yeah, it's important. That's for sure.
I like real estate. So if anybody wants to, they can, the company I created is an education-based company. Mm-hmm. It's obviously they sell, but they're education-based. So they don't have like $50,000 programs. You won't find that there. But if you just want to go to myinvestmentservices.com, grab all the free stuff you can get. It's free. Just grab it. Okay. You can go to YouTube channel, My Investment Services YouTube channel. I think we've got probably close to 100 videos out there. Everything from buying within a self-directed IRA, Airbnb, 1031 exchange, borrowing at your 401k. It's all out there, and it doesn't cost a dime. So I would say reach out and ask for help, grab the information. And, there's thousands of us out. I've got a network of 24,000 people now that I've taught over the years. I know that the bio said 8,000, but that's probably old. And we've trained the agents how to work with us. I'm a broker, obviously. We've trained 4,000 agents across the U.S. and Canada how to work with us investors. So just join the network, be part of it, and make your life a little bit easier,
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing the website and the YouTube channel. Is there any other social media or anything like that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Well, they could definitely go watch or listen to the podcast. It's called Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. And if you're listening, you're obviously a professional in sales. It's on, I don't know how many different, 30 some odd channels. It's been over 30 countries now. So just subscribe to it. Go to Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio. It's Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Start downloading some of the recordings. We've got some great guests on there. I'm gonna put you on there too, Joyce. Okay.
Absolutely.
And, you just want to get involved, just engage, give yourself permission to participate and be around other people where you want to be,
Right. It's like playing tennis. You want to play with somebody who's just a little better than you so that you can improve and learn. But thank you so much today. You really kind of expanded the listeners' minds onto what's possible with real estate, because you're right. It's usually about, no money down, that type of thing. So I like how you elevated the conversation. So thank you for that. And I hope to have you on again sometime. So, but for now, that's a wrap. And I appreciate you being here. And to all the listeners, until next time, have a great sales day.